The Hiring Podcast. I'm your host, Shelbie. Today, of this time of the recording, it is March 7th, 2024. Tomorrow is International Women's Day. March is Women's History Month, so I'm very excited to celebrate with today's guest. But before we begin, the show is brought to you by RMR Legacy Smalls Pre-Rolls, available in California, Washington, and Arizona. We are also going to be at Hall of Flowers, Ventura next week and celebrating 13 years of Respect My Region. So if you're going to be near the Ventura area next Tuesday and you're in the cannabis industry, make sure to tap in with us and celebrate and come to our party. So today's guest is Krystal Kitahara. She's also my boss, the CEO of Yummi Karma. So I'm excited to have our audience get to know her and get to know the journey of Yummi Karma. And we're going to talk about how we're going to celebrate Women's History Month as well. Thank you for joining, Krystal.
Thank you for having me, Shelbie.
Okay, so can you talk a little bit about your background, how you grew up, and what your family's stance on cannabis is?
Yeah, so I'm from the Central Valley, if anyone knows, in California. And I can tell you that my background growing up, my parents did not talk about cannabis at all, other than my dad may say, like, smells like pot somewhere. Come to find out, though, years later, my mom did have a bong hidden in the attic, which makes sense. When we look back at our childhood, we're like, oh, no wonder mom was eating weird snacks and stuff. We didn't find out until after we were 18. So there was no talk about it really. It really wasn't on my radar until I went to college, So kind of grew up farm town, horses, stuff like that.
Cool. And then you also have a sister.
Yes.
Right? Any siblings?
My sister, Chelsea, who runs the company with me. Yes. She's 7 years younger.
What's your heritage?
So we're both adopted, and I am half Japanese, half French Scottish. My sister is a blend of European, so we don't look alike. I'm tall, she's shorter. I have freckles in her hair. She's like blonde, olive skin tone. So people are often like, "Wait, you're sisters?" But the mannerism, if they only hear us talking, then they always assume that we're related. So I'm just really lucky that I got to start this and run this with her, even though it leads to times where we want to kill each other. So yeah.
What did you want to be growing up?
It's funny. Whenever I get asked that question and I try to think back, I'm like, I don't remember any point in time where I wanted to be something when I wanted to grow up. My parents and my memories are always of me already doing something. So my parents said at like 5 years old, I already had all my colored Play-Doh with little molds for like teddy bears and stuff like that. And I would set up a table in front of our house and I would sell these to the neighbors. And then my first joint venture with my sister was the Cleaner Sisters with a K for our last name. And we set up a little tent in the living room and I put out a board that said, all the little chores we would do, vacuum and whatever. But my dad knew that I would be an entrepreneur one day because he heard me one time and we would charge like $1 to vacuum. And then I would tell Chelsea, like, okay, go vacuum this room and then I'll give you 10 cents. And I used to keep 90 cents. So honestly, when I think back to what I wanted to be, I don't know that I dreamed of being something one day. I just kind of always have felt entrepreneurial and wanted to start stuff. So it's, I guess it was in my blood.
Cool. So I love that story, by the way. But can you talk about your career journey? Like, what was your first jobs, and then how did that lead into the cannabis industry?
Yeah. So I've had a lot of jobs. So I know it's looked down upon these days where they say, "Oh, don't bounce around," or it's nonsense. I think my first job was for working for our father. He had a car dealership. So sweeping the floors, filing, answering the phone, but not working for my parents. It was probably working at a juice place, like a smoothie place. And I remember I got in trouble because I put out a break sign. I went to the store next door. I got little cups because it was so slow. We weren't getting any business and it was inside of a gym. So I made little samples and put them out. And then people are like, "Oh, this is great, I'll buy it." And then I got in trouble for it. They're like, "You can't just give product away for free." And I'm like, well, you have to if you need people to try it, to buy it. But from there, I've worked at AT&T selling cell phones before the iPhone, restaurants, serving, hostess, Chili's. Let's see. And then my last job before that started to lead more into what I think helped me in this role was I worked for a marketing agency for a year. And then from there, I worked at a news station and I helped create like commercials and stuff like that for my clients, and then had to decide like what station do I put it on, what time, what programming would this work with, demographics. Had never really understood any of that before. So I mean, it's one thing to learn it in college. It's another thing to act it out. So that was actually my last job that I left, was working at a news station before I started Yummi Karma.
That kind of segued into my next question. Like, what skills or experiences from your previous jobs have you found most valuable in your role co-founding Yummi Karma?
Yeah, so to go back to that, having so many different roles, I think you learn to everything from the bottom up, which is super helpful and impactful. I think where it really, I went to entrepreneurship, or I went through the entrepreneurship program in my college, and I had great mentors there. We actually ran real world situations like payroll, things like that. So I will always say that in my college experience, I actually learned a lot that I used. It was a great program. But when I think about how we run our company now and how I like to differentiate, it's real hard when you're young, you're inexperienced, you're working at a place, you're the one on the ground. You're usually the one talking to the customer, or, I always say it sounds great in a boardroom, but when you're doing it in real life, it can be kind of silly. So an example was, I used to work for a liquor, not liquor, but like a brand rep, right? You go out and you promote it in the bar at night, which is really fun. But, they tell us like, oh, this whiskey, we want the customer to understand that it was aged 8 years and just all this stuff. And I'm like, you just sent me to a college bar on a Saturday night where by the time I'm already doing this, everyone is like lit. Like you walk up with the tray with the samples and you're like, here, let me tell you about they're already grabbing the drink, throwing it back. And I was like, if you're going to give me something, it needs to be maybe more visual or really short to the point. And they're like, you just need to do your job, so I just had so many times where I was frustrated and almost lost or did lose, jobs over arguing like, this doesn't make sense. Like, I think we should change our process. And so when I started Yummi Karma, it was really important to make sure that we always have a two-way street with everyone that's in their field and in their role. Like we want to hear your feedback. Like it makes us better. And so I feel like that experience constantly, repetitively, it had the biggest impact, I'd like to say, on why our team functions so well, even though we're small.
Hell yeah. Thank you. And so Yummi Karma started in 2014, celebrating 10 years this year. So can you talk about the journey of how it started and where you guys started and then making the move where you are now?
Yeah. So to go back to the last job I had, I actually was already, so my sister and I, years back, even before we started Yummi Karma, we were growing under the Prop 215, 6 plants, medical card on the wall. We even got caught one time and the cops came through and they're like, no, they're doing it right. So, we started to sell off the extra to collectives like in Bakersfield in LA. And, one day I'm in one of the places and I looked down and I'm like, oh, what's this? Like, I'd never bought any of the edibles or anything like that. I thought it was weird because they're in cellophane and plastic baggies and it just, no. And the first time I ever saw a product was if everyone remembers, Bang Chocolate, it was like colorful. It looked like it could go in a normal Trader Joe's store. And I thought, someone's doing this? Like, there must be a future in it, right? So I got really excited. I remember going home and telling my dad, because I had just started this other job, and I was like, I know what I want to do in life now, after I'd been trying all these jobs. And he's like, what? I'm like, I'm going to make weed products. And he's like, no, what? Are you crazy? And I explained it, and he's like, I can see how there could be a vision, but, you just landed this really great job that I can finally brag about what you do in the town. He was so proud. And so I thought, he said, work on it on the side for a year. If after a year you still feel strongly about this, I'll be the first one to support you to leave the job. Not support me, but like, support my vision and say leave. So I literally marked my calendar. And I remember October 1st, 2024, I called him and I said, I still want to do what I was talking about. I have all these ideas. We've actually been working on things. And I quit my job. And he was very supportive, actually. And our first facility in the area was actually, he called a few friends that had commercial property and found us a very cheap old warehouse with no air conditioning. And it gets hot in the Central Valley. So if you don't know, like 105 is not uncommon. So that's where we launched Yummi Karma. And if you could infuse it, we tried to infuse it. There was a lot of products that I don't think ever had weed in it. I mean, our first show we ever went to, the rules said, don't bring in live product. So we didn't bring live product. And then you show up at like Kush Cup or whatever it was. It's like everyone's smoking. And oh no, it says, oops, connection lost. Hopefully it didn't.
I can see you. You're good.
Okay. So I have spotty internet sometimes. Yeah, so learning lessons like that and then accelerating through there. We were there for a couple years before we were not so kindly asked to get out of town, and we relocated. We had met great women over the couple years we had started, and we were fortunate enough to get on a truck and be distributed around like 2016, I think, 17. And that really accelerated our growth. So from there, we were able to throw our hat in the ring. We put in an application at Costa Mesa. We're really proud of we worked on the project. We didn't use consultants. That's something that we've always, we like to learn. This is kind of fun. Like, when are you ever going to have another time where you don't just start a new company or new products that have never been created, but you're also in a new market, new industry. So now we're home here. We've just celebrated like 6 or 7 years, I think, in our fully licensed facility and distro. And yeah, I mean, that's in a nutshell. There's a million crazy stories in between that, but that's where we're at today.
So yes, Yummi Karma was the first licensed manufacturer in Costa Mesa. Yeah. So amazing. And I'm very proud to be part of the group with that. What were some challenges or other opportunities you faced as pioneers in the industry?
Yeah, so prior to regulations, obviously obstacles and challenges was that it was a gray market. You felt pretty safe when you were in certain cities like LA or San Francisco when you were selling to stores, but then you go to some of these other towns, like just driving with the product and all that was always a risk. Testing, I remember, was just a huge one. It's like, the labs were still very new and there's a lot of argument over, they could test flour, but different edibles you tested and stuff could kind of throw off the results. So I remember just like so many times with testing where it's just like, you're on the edge of your seat. Is it going to pass? Mm-hmm. But I would say then moving into regulations, being so early to have a license and we were like 21st in the state. We were all excited, and then we looked at the list of the people we could sell to, and there's like 38 stores. So suddenly we were like, wait, we were in 500. Now we had to, it was almost like you had to start all over again. You had to go back, get into the store, and everything was so different with compliance and metric and layers. And you're dealing with a city and a state, and they don't know what they're necessarily doing because it's new. But it did create a lot of opportunity. And for one example, we're very close to the city of Costa Mesa. We've been able to be on the advisory board. We've helped with initiatives. We helped with the launch of retail rolling out. So the opportunity is you get these really cool opportunities that you maybe wouldn't have had the chance to do if you hadn't been so early to the game. So good, bad, good.
And I know you were doing a lot of the deliveries back then. I've heard a lot of great stories back delivering way random places and Prop 215 times. But what other obstacles or challenges have you had to navigate being a woman in the space?
I mean, I get asked, I don't do a ton of interviews. Shelbie knows this because usually I ask Shelbie to do them. But I am used to this question. And, there, of course, are challenges. Any woman that's watching this, that's in business, in any career position, knows that it can sometimes feel like you're not being heard the same, or that you're not on the same playing field. And cannabis is heavily dominated by men still. So, you have to navigate that. Of course, I've had times where I feel like I've been disrespected, just not taken serious. I think also you add age into it and kind of compounds, but you can't control how people are going to perceive you. All day long, people judge and people make, inferences. And honestly, I try to remember that that's just human nature. That's just, our mind wants to put something in a box, and I tend to not take it. You can't take it personal, even if it is personal. So I look back though, and I think of all the times in 10 years where I have had those situations, and I'm not going to do call outs to people, but they've made me stronger. I have had, I guess, what is called imposter syndrome or whatever. I'm not always, I guess, as confident sometimes as I should be. We're doing the damn thing. But I'll say, on top of that, there's been so many opportunities as a woman. So I like to think it's a nice balance. I think we bring a different point of view. So, I wouldn't change it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
I think you've always conducted yourself well, and you've set a great precedent for us on how we conduct ourselves representing the brand as well.
Well, thank you so much.
With the cannabis industry being increasingly competitive, how have you consistently distinguished Yummi Karma against competitors and maintain your position as a leader in the market?
Right. So that's a good one. We've made all kinds of things over the years, from chips to salad dressing to everything you can kind of try to put weed in. With Yummi Karma, the tinctures, everyone thought we were kind of crazy at the beginning of regs. I saw a problem with some of our products. You had to have great margins. If you didn't have great margins, you're going to have a hard time taking on the taxes and all the extra, the testing and all of that. So when we were trying to also be creative, it's like, there's a book I think it's Blue Ocean Strategy or whatever. It's like, you got to create a new ocean. Look for a pain. As an entrepreneur, you always want to solve a new pain. So, as boring as it was, we've been making tinctures since 2015, and it's such a great conversation starter. But on the flip side, it's a product that requires so much education. So we knew we were going to have our work cut out for us, but we thought, well, if we can own this category and really stand out, then that'll set us up down the road with our foot in the door to put out other products that are going to be highly competitive, right? I knew, in order to do vape, clearly we weren't growing anymore, so the flower wasn't an option, unless you want to have some co-packet. But no, I believe in controlling what we make. So, when we started looking at everything in edibles, we just landed on tinctures. So from there, we have a great team that really looked at how can we do it different? Because you'd say tinctures, and I swear the buyer's eyes just glaze over. People were not, it's not like a fun, sexy topic. Yeah. So we tried to make it that. And I think that we were the leaders on that, coming up with, at the time it was very just THC or CBD or ratio. And, we were the first, I think, really or one of the first to really go after PMS or sleep or sex or whatever it was, and add herbs. And I think that was a very different spin. So it made it more come off as a wellness product, which is what category it's in. But then we call them fun and functional, right? We've had definitely, if anyone's followed our brand, they've seen the different versions of Drift Away. It's looked 6 different ways. And, we're like, ooh, this way. And thank goodness now we have people on our team that are like, this is it. So, but colorful and flavor and just making it, just being different than everyone else, which is, I think that we stand with other great brands, but we definitely stand apart from them. So looking towards the future, that's what we're looking at. We're always looking at what else is missing in the marketplace. And it's kind of hard these days because it's just, you walk in the store now and there's just so many options, I feel like. But we're excited. We have some stuff in the works, so we think different.
Yes, and we start conversations. So I want to talk about the Empower Women Period campaign. What inspired you to start it, and how has it evolved?
The team inspired me to start it. We had a group of women who, we've always had different good karma initiatives that we've done over the years. We've had our Pride tincture. We've had different good karma products or whatever we've done. I think they brought it to my attention. I had never really thought about period poverty and what does that mean, and that there's an extra tax on tampons and pads. I mean, who knew that there's a luxury tax? So for anyone who doesn't know, when you go to the grocery store and you buy this, it's not considered a necessity. It's considered a luxury. So you actually pay a higher tax on it. And that's insane, right? Like, no one's going and buying tampons and thinking, wow, I just treated myself. What a luxury. So we have a great blog that was written by some of our team members. And from there, they really built out, what does it mean? So we ran all different kind of campaigns, donation drives where we give the product away now to participate in stores for free. So you bring in something and you get a free Mood Magic tincture. And now what's really exciting is, we're not just doing it in Women's Month anymore. The team is working on creating something that will go on and on and on forever. Well, not forever. I hope I don't do this forever. But, something that is just continuing. So it's not just like, oh, we're doing it 1 month and that's it. So we are turning that product into something that will always give back. That way the customer feels like they've, donated. There it is. The store has an initiative into it. So it's a feel good, it's a return. And we've worked with shelters that accept it for women, and they're very appreciative because, they get food donations and all kinds of things. But I think it was, and there are other companies doing this too. So I just think it's a cool cause, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, it's been super rewarding to be a part of it, and just to see other brands following and just how it's growing in other ways. It's awesome. Yay. So what are some of your favorite moments or experiences being in the cannabis industry?
Favorite moments. I wonder if that will also come later with a question of challenges. It's funny. I can look back at certain wins, like getting the CUP that night. Like, the whole team is there. We're cheering when we got a unanimous go ahead from the council, but also going to MJ BizCon and following the smell of smoke and knocking on a door, and it turns out it's a Ghostface Killer from Wu-Tang Clan, and we're on stage next thing we know. Hennessy, or there's been crazy opportunities over the years, and I think back and it's like, yeah, we'd open the door for that, right? But it's the wins that definitely have kept us going. And I think that even, it's gotten a little hard in the last year or so, and it's just good to keep perspective. So I try to celebrate wins all the time. Shelby, every week we have a call, and we celebrate individual wins, we celebrate team wins. So, but I could probably write a book on moments where I'm like, well, that was cool. We did that. So, yeah.
I know. Yeah, we've been on stage behind the DJ booth during an MJ BizCon club time.
I ended up behind Skrillex at what was the Playboy Mansion at one time, because we were giving out high gorgeous lotions and stuff to their team. So, yeah.
From those moments to moments in dispensaries when we tell people, people are telling us how much they just love the product. Those are some of my favorite moments too.
Even getting the emails from customers, and I love how we share it. We have a chat where it's shared, and I think it's cool to hear the touching stories too. A lot of customers that write to us that are grateful. Yeah, that definitely keeps us going.
Yeah,
for sure.
What are some upcoming projects or initiatives that you are working on, or Yummi Karma is working on?
So we have, Yummi Karma is pretty full, well-rounded right now. We are adding a few things that are exciting. It's in the works. I don't want to say it yet, but I will say that we've had another brand that's it's been around since 2016. It's High Gorge. It's been topicals. We've made some really fun products in the past, but during COVID, we definitely pulled it back, mostly because our supplier just started making hand sanitizer. So When you have two brands, it can eat up a lot of resources. And so, we had to, we put our efforts behind Yummi Karma because that was showing a lot of growth and it has great margins. So we ran with that. And now we're focusing and rebranding High Gorgeous. I'm very excited about what's coming together for what we're going to release later this year. It's always been something that we wanted to focus on because we think it can touch so many categories, not just like beauty and wellness, but also everything to non-plant touching. It'd be great to sell outside of California. So.
Yes, I know. Yeah, we fixate on Yummi Karma, like just like you said, it has the most growth, but High Gorgeous was the first brand that like caught my eye and was my original favorite. I love the bubble bath and I will always fight to get that back one day. But
well, it's good that we're on the committee to come up with new products.
I'm excited to see what happens and to share with everybody towards the end of the year. But just what you were saying, like what role do you see Yummi Karma playing in the broader cannabis community beyond California or also in California?
We've started talks about what that could look like going into other states. It's hard, I think, in the sense like you want to license the brand, like, your only option is to license the brand or set up shop somewhere else. And California is just such a beast that taking your eye off the ball here, we've seen other brands do it and then their sales start to slip here. Alternatively, when you license your brand to someone else, you're putting your faith in someone. And honestly, I just don't trust anyone to do it as well as we do yet. We haven't found the right partners, but we are in constant talks with people, and then from there, like globally, we do think that what we have is something that can be sold worldwide. A lot of people maybe don't realize, like, whereas tinctures aren't as popular, I would say, in the US, they're really popular in some other countries, especially like Latin American stuff. You'd be shocked. But some of these countries that are rolling out medicinal licenses and they're just staying medical right now, like Brazil and Panama and Costa Rica, it's actually, they're only allowing certain products. And one of the main ones is the tincture. So it's like tinctures and topicals. Like, oh, we got that handled. So I'm excited. We were starting to explore it more, but then this industry just really has gone through a lot in the last year. So we kind of pulled it back. And I do feel if everything starts to even out and everyone pays their bills, that we can go back to focusing on it. But, this year I'm so proud of our team because we kind of went back and looked at everything we do, our SOPs, our infrastructure. We added distro. So we've been building. And I think by taking a step back, sometimes it's important to do that to make sure you're building the right foundation before you go and just try to do it all, right? So it's hard for me. I always want to do everything. I see something and I'm like, oh, we should do that. Oh, we should do that. Oh, we should do that. And if I didn't have this great team, then, and my sister to say no, there's no way we can afford to do all that, then I don't know that we'd be here today. So yeah.
How does your dynamic with Chelsea, your sister, as siblings contribute to the company's success?
We're opposites. So we joke all the time that we want to, we used to live together, go to the gym together, and then it's like we hit a point where I swear she hates when I say this, but I woke up one night and she had a pillow and I was like, she's gonna kill me. We have to put some separation in, right? And it's funny because then she moved out and got a little studio, and then while we were looking at it, it was like one that had a courtyard, and I loved it so much. So then I got a studio that looked right at hers. I could come out my back door, she could come out hers, and I'd be like, good morning, and then I'd go over there for breakfast, but it was enough space. But no, where I am more, visionary, head in the clouds a little bit. She's just very financially sound. I should say that when we even started growing, she funded it, and she was like not even of age to do that. So she is my other half. Like the two of us, I think, dynamically work very well together. We can get very heated about our positions. Everyone knows that sometimes, if we weren't sisters, it would scare them more, but sisters are already going to fight. But this company wouldn't be where it is today without her coming on board. And she came straight out of college to work full time, but she's always been involved since day one. So I feel very fortunate to have her. And I hope she watches this so she hears me say that.
Yes. And you guys do balance each other out in a really great way. And I'm just really proud to work for both of you guys. And it's cool to have seen you guys in the High Times magazine with that whole editorial feature. So go check out that as well. Who are some women in your life or in the industry who have inspired or influenced you?
You know, it's crazy. Like, I've come across quite a few women throughout the years. We were fortunate enough to early on join a group called Women Grow that I'm not sure if they're still around. They probably are, but it was early days. There was, maybe one of the first retreats we did 8 years ago was in Colorado, and it was up by Vail, and it was 120 women. And I remember that still being such a big impact to hear. We were just kind of starting, we were young, and there were all kinds of women there that had already been running even different businesses. We met a group called, I think it was Love's Oven, and they invited us to come back to Colorado, and we toured their facility, and because Colorado was way ahead of California. So being able to have mentors like that were willing to just walk us through what they do and answer all kinds of questions. We've had so many along the way, including our first distributor, Shauna. If you ever heard her, shout out. She's amazing. And, she had full faith in us. When she picked us up, we were a lot. Like, we didn't really understand as much. So we learned a lot from her as well. I think that I try to, every time I have a conversation with someone, whether it's in this industry or not, to try to, I think there's something to be learned, to take away. So I would say almost every woman, well, not all of them, but a lot of them, like, there's something to be learned,
Cool. And Kate Spade for the style.
Oh, Kate Spade was a big inspiration when it was Kate Spade.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, our popcorn bags were like one of her popcorn purses that she had. No, I used to make that as an excuse to go in there. I'm like, well, I have to go shopping.
Yeah, it's research.
She was a big inspiration for sure. Thank you for reminding me that.
Of course. Yummi Karma places a strong emphasis on women's empowerment. How does this ethos influence the company culture and decision-making process?
Yeah, so, I mean, we are a team primarily of women. We do have a couple guys, and so I will even include them in this. It goes back to what I was saying. I think it's, it's important to, well, this from people who work for us. Of course, we're always there to guide, and we go through changes and process, but I love to see people develop skills, own a role, and feel comfortable like making certain decisions and feel empowered to be able to do that. And it takes a lot of time, right? You got to be able to build confidence and feel comfortable, but it's huge to me. Part of what we like to do, of course, it's a paycheck, right? Salary, whatever it is, that's important to people. But what we also like to try to instill is a lot of skill building. We want people, and they have, that have worked for us, to go on to bigger and better things. And watching people's personal development, it keeps me going. Of course, being successful, making money is the point of business. But the other point that gets me going is watching people develop, people have wins, people get their first house or their car or whatever it is. And so we like to always say that Yummi Karma, it's like a work-life balance. And also, like, there will be times when the company needs you to put in more and everyone's there till 2 a.m., like, getting something done. But there will also be times when in your personal life, you need time, space, whatever it is, to deal with family matters or whatever, or, you're going to have a kid or something. And we want to be there for you, because that's what I think the point, I feel like in life, it should be well-rounded like that. And I hate the idea where people just clock in, they do something just to get paid and then go home. I love the companies that take it a step further and make sure that they empower people, leave them better, right, than when they started.
Yeah, we have about 4 mothers on our team, so we've definitely been able to empower them to like keep that balance so they could show
Right.
up as best as they can. So I thought that was really cool. I also thought it was cool when we do interview men, one of the questions, I don't know, I hope we're allowed to say this, but we asked like, how do you empower women?
Oh yeah.
I thought that was really awesome too.
Yes.
So looking ahead, what are some of your personal goals or aspirations in the coming years?
I mean, honestly, a personal goal is, I put almost October will be 10 years into this company. And I do feel like I've given quite a bit. I've had some moments where I've ran off for a little bit, but overall, I'm starting to look towards my own life a little bit. I'm getting a little older. I'm not going to say my age, but I'd like the opportunity to also one day, sometime soon, maybe start a family or do other things. I'd love to travel again, but I want to, I feel like the team's really come together, and I'm always like, for guidance now, I'm always there, but I almost sometimes I'm starting to feel like I'm not needed as much, right? So I'm super excited about that and watching people develop their roles and have ownership over them. So, obviously my aspiration for Yummi Karma is to continue to grow, to dominate, to spread to other states. Let's be number one. I want to be the most successful, of course. But personally, I'm also okay with not being the number one and having a well-balanced life and maybe living what I preach, like, and having a little bit more going on,
Hell yeah. What is your favorite activity?
Oh, so that leads right into it. Definitely golf. 1000% golf. That's been my one thing that I've been really able to enjoy lately. I try to play golf once a weekend, and I do a golf clinic with other women once a week. It's a great sport. I know people knock it and say that it's boring, but you just got to understand, right? When you finally knock one in from really far away too, it's like, you want to repeat it. So I love it. I think it's fun. It's good activity. You meet a lot of people, but I'll also throw in there that I've been doing a lot more yoga lately. So I don't know. It's good for the mental brain.
Golfing and yoga. That'd be cool. Yummi Karma can sponsor the PGA in the future.
Right? Wow. Good idea, Shelby. Write that down. We'll have to get to that next week.
What is a book that has or is currently impacting your life?
Well, anyone who knows me knows I read a lot. I tend to listen to a book in the morning and read at night. So I love my mystery, Agatha Christie, Sherlock Holmes, all of those. I love to read. But I'm actually reading a book that was recommended to me by someone else in the industry, and it just kept popping up on like books you have to read. So I started it. I'm only like first couple chapters in, and I'm mind blown already. And it's the 5 a.m. club. So I already kind of have been getting up earlier for like the last 6 months, but now I'm like, okay, 5 a.m. But it's so different from many of the books I've read, which either it's like fiction type stuff or it's like a business book. And when you're listening to the business book is very just like, sometimes it feels like it just kind of drones on or it's monotone. And this is one of the first times I've read one that's a bit of both. So the narrator's fantastic. It does the different voices for people, and it's almost like a parable so far. I know there's other stuff coming because like I know there's parts that actually are not just the story, but I've been so excited about it. I think I've told all of the team about it. I think Jen's already been reading it. I don't know. And so I would recommend it even though I haven't finished it yet.
5 a.m. club. Yeah, I'm at like 6:15 club right now. My days.
I was like, yeah, I was proud of myself. I was 6, but now I'm up to 5:35, and I got my 5:35 today, and I'm like, yeah, you really feel like you get so much done.
Totally.
Your intentions for the day. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, and I'm really grateful that we've instilled that in our company. We have a weekly book club that we're trying to do here and there, so it's really helping our growth, I think, and like having us all brainstorm and like keep our minds fresh has been awesome. Krystal, what do you want to be remembered for?
Like if I die?
Sure. Or like, yeah.
Wow, that's a deep question. They actually address it in the first chapters of that book, but I don't know that I want to be remembered necessarily as something like really big, one thing, versus just it'd be nice when a lot of individuals I've come across, if they feel like I left them with something, or it was a positive interaction, or it sounds cheesy to say I want to leave the world a better place, but I feel like we need more people like that. And I'm definitely not anywhere near close to perfect person, but I do want to remember that every time you come across someone to interact, you have a chance to, I don't know, make a positive impact. And I definitely talk to a lot of people, like even at the grocery store. It's amazing how many conversations I can have.
Mm-hmm.
But, from the company standpoint, it would be great to have Yummi Karma go on as a legacy and be a brand that's still around 100 years from now. Will that happen? Time will tell.
Okay, so I just want to get more into like your favorite things. What are your favorite musical artists? Or like any music that you vibe out? You can give me a genre too.
The thing, do I have a favorite? I like old country.
Okay.
To be honest, George Jones, George Strait, Alan Jackson.
What's your favorite food and restaurants?
Oh man, these are things I don't think of. My favorite food or restaurants. I mean, I love sushi. That's probably the Japanese in me. But pepperoni pizza lately, like a lot, like a scary amount.
Oh yeah, you've been cooking too. Do you have a favorite dish?
I'm starting to cook. Wait, what was that?
Do you have a favorite dish that you cook?
Cook well? No. I'm getting good at soup because it's really hard to mess up. Like really. The slow cooker is my friend because you just put it in. I actually have it going right now at my house because you just don't have to think about it, But honestly, I always did say, oh, I don't cook. It's not for me. I used to be very like, I don't like it. I don't understand. But what I realized is maybe it's more fear, right? So between what I'm reading and maybe some therapy sessions, fear is a big thing that always comes up. And so I started to approach it a different way, and I've been cooking a little bit more. I'm more of a sous chef. I'm the one that like goes to the grocery store, gets all the ingredients, chops them up, and then I wait for my boyfriend to come home, and then he actually cooks the product, like meal together, and turns the fire on. But it's kind of like a great bonding experience, and it's kind of calming after you get done with work. And really, I'm just proud of myself because I think I tend to do that. I have tended to do that a lot, where it's like, oh, I don't do that. Instead of just being like, oh, I don't do that. It's like, well, I don't really try that. So I've been trying to do new things, and cooking is kind of one of them. So I am slightly proud of myself for that.
Yeah, I need to get
skiing. Came up yesterday. You should go skiing sometime. I'm like, nope, not going to do it. Don't like the mountains. Don't like the cold. Don't like the snow. And I did try snowboarding once, and I fell and broke my wrist. So there are some hard no's where I'm like, no.
What do you have any favorite events or any like outside of cannabis or cannabis events?
I used to be a big raver, but I'm too old for that now. It's not an event, but sailing is a big thing for me now too. But going to events, it's amazing as you get older, your priorities change, and no, there's not really any events I go to. So maybe, Shelby, I need to go and commit to like 2 or 3 events this year.
Any trips that we do as a group are our favorite.
Yeah. I would love to do, I've always wanted to do like 3 months, just like fly to Asia and get lost.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Just bounce around. But I don't see that happening quite in the foreseeable future, maybe for a week.
Is there anything you would like to leave the audience with? Any statements? And can we follow you in Yummi Karma?
Yes. I mean, you can follow Yummi Karma at Yummi Karma with an I. Statements. I think it's just been eye-opening for me in the last even week or two to remember that when you're dealing with adversity, when things get really hard, when you feel like giving up or crying or yelling, and it's it wasn't until recently, and part of the book that I'm reading and doing the yoga and everything is reminding me that you're exactly where you need to be. And I think hearing that more and understanding that, like, another example is like, you're in a tunnel and you see the light at the end of the tunnel. Stop focusing so much on getting the light, but just once you're in it, like, focus. And everything that we're thrown into, it does make you stronger. It gives you a better character. And you hear people say it all day long, but it's important, I think, sometimes to be able to step away and not just get into a cycle, right? Work, home, stress, work, home, stress. And so I think that I've just been really excited about trying new things, meeting new people, and putting myself out there in a different way. And I'm always learning. I will say my age. I'm going to be 38. And, you start to think, you figure it out, or you start to worry about where you are in life, or this is what you pictured, and it may not be what you pictured. But the more I've learned to just like let go and enjoy it more, the more I'm getting out of it. So sometimes I know it's hard for people, and maybe that helps someone out there. I'm not sure, but it's definitely worth it to keep going, because you can't have the good without the bad.
Thank you so much for all of your wisdom. I love working for you, and I love learning from you. And it's been just a great journey working with Yummi Karma, and then seeing all the opportunities that I've gotten personally. And now we're right here doing this amazing episode. So it's pretty awesome and crazy. And we're only going up, and we're just going to keep doing really cool things. So I'm just so excited to have you in my life. And thank you for being in this episode. Everybody tap in to yummykarma.com so you can follow along with our Empower Women campaign. Please like, follow, and subscribe to Respect My Region. Leave us a comment, and we will see you next time. Happy Women's History Month. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you.